Welcome to the deep dive. You've sent us some really fascinating material this time, and today we're unpacking a challenge that feels incredibly relevant to, well, pretty much everyone right now. It's that struggle,
Yeah,
staying focused, keeping emotionally balanced when we're just surrounded by tech.
indeed. And in this deep dive, we're going to explore exactly that, how our digital habits are really impacting our minds. We'll pull out some surprising parallels and insights, all directly from the material you sent. The goal, as always, is to get you those key nuggets of knowledge so you feel really well informed on this. It's critical stuff.
That's right. Our mission today: cut through the noise, give you a clear understanding of how tech shapes our attention, our emotions, and, importantly, what these sources actually suggest we can do about it. So, okay, let's jump right in. The first kind of core problem your sources really zero in on is this idea of attention erosion.
Wow.
They highlight how modern tech, social media, TikTok, that kind of thing,
Hmm.
it just effortlessly grabs our attention, like through constant sensory stuff. Think about those endless feeds of cute animal videos. They just pull you right in.
Right. And what's happening beneath that easy engagement, it's actually quite profound and
Yeah.
maybe not so harmless. While it feels easy, it's actually weakening our natural ability for, deliberate focus. The sources use a great analogy like a muscle. If you always take the elevator, your leg muscles get weak, right?
hmm
It's similar here. When we constantly let devices handle our focus, that attention muscle, well, it just weakens. We lose control over it.
Okay, so our attention muscle gets weaker. What does that actually mean for us day to day? Because the sources seem to connect this loss of control to something much more serious than just being easily distracted, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, the material you shared links this weakened, deliberate focus directly to being more vulnerable to those really tough spirals of anxiety or depression. When your mind is just constantly pulled around by external things, it struggles to find its anchor, like a boat adrift, really.
Wow. Now, what really jumped out at me in these sources was this parallel they draw. It's quite striking. They suggest that using our devices can act a lot like opiate addiction.
Yeah.
That's a pretty bold claim.
It is bold. And what's fascinating here is the cycle they describe. Devices initially give you this temporary relief from discomfort, boredom, stress, negative feelings, whatever it is.
Okay.
But like an opiate, while it gives that quick ease, it actually makes the underlying problem worse in the long run. It builds dependence. So you feel bad, you grab the phone, you feel a bit better for a moment, but then you're deeper in is this endless loop.
An endless loop.
Yeah.
And building on that, this idea of being constantly pulled. What else are we losing? The sources talk about something really subtle but crucial: the disappearance of idle time.
Yes, that's a really key insight. If you think about it historically, humans always had these built-in moments of, well, idleness. Yeah, walking back from a hunt, waiting for something, doing a simple chore. These weren't wasted moments. They were actually crucial. The brain used them to process emotions, make sense of things, restore balance.
Right. Natural downtime.
Exactly. But now, constant device use often fills every single gap, so that natural emotional processing gets suppressed. And not only that, but the devices themselves are adding new emotional triggers, news alerts, social comparisons. So you end up with this backlog of unprocessed feelings.
So, what does this all mean for us? I mean, and maybe society more broadly, because the sources link this to, widespread anxiety, depression, and they even mention things like it impacting our ability to form deep connections, maybe even contributing to declining marriage or birth rates in some places. That seems like a huge potential consequence, doesn't it?
It really is, and it just underscores how profound these often unseen impacts are. When we don't process our own stuff, connecting deeply with others becomes harder. And if we're always seeking external fixes for internal discomfort,
Yeah.
yeah, it can chip away at the foundations of, connection and commitment.
hmm Okay, so it's clear from these sources there's a powerful dynamic here. And, well, companies are definitely profiting from it. The material makes this really strong case that our attention, it's basically our most valuable life resource, which makes sense when you think about it. It's finite.
And here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Social media companies, they aren't just selling ad space. They're actively farming our attention. That's the term used. Using these incredibly sophisticated algorithms, not just to keep us scrolling, but to subtly, almost invisibly, shape how we see things, even our political views. The sources call this online drift.
Online drift.
Yeah. And think about the implication there. If what you see, what you believe, how you react is being nudged by an algorithm built for profit, the really grave thing is if we lose control over our attention, we're essentially losing control over our life decisions. Our autonomy is genuinely at stake. It's not just about being distracted. It's about who's steering the ship.
Wow. Okay, so that paints a pretty stark picture of the challenge. But the big question then is, what can we do? Thankfully, your sources don't just leave us there. They introduce a central practice to try and break these cycles, something called dharana, which is basically focused attention training.
Exactly. And they get quite specific, drilling down into a technique within dharana called tritaka, candle-gazing meditation. And the sources explain why this particular practice might be such a potent antidote in our digital age. Think about it. Tech bombards us with fleeting, shallow visuals. Tritaka does the opposite. It makes your mind engage deliberately, slowly, with one single stable point. It offers a real sense of mastery and a sensory depth that screens just can't mimic. It's like retraining the brain.
So it's almost like an anti-technology workout for your mind. How exactly does it help, according to the sources?
Well, they list several ways. First, it's visually engaging, which makes it different, maybe more accessible for some than just focusing on the breath. Second, it's actually challenging. It takes effort. So when you make progress, you get this real, tangible sense of achievement. That's powerful. Third, it gives unique sensory experiences, like the subtle colors you might see after closing your eyes, things technology just doesn't offer. And finally, the sources mention it cleansing the third eye, or the Agna chakra, which, in those traditions, is linked to enhancing intuition, self-awareness, sometimes leading to quite significant personal or even spiritual insights.
Interesting. So the overall message here seems really clear. Reclaiming idle time, actively training our focus. These aren't just like nice self-care tips. The sources present them as urgent necessities for mental health, emotional well-being, and really for our own autonomy in this world.
That's the core takeaway, yes. This deep dive really highlights the profound ways technology is messing with our basic human abilities, attention, emotional processing, and the need to consciously reclaim those capacities feels, well, pretty urgent, given what the sources suggest is at stake for our autonomy.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you, the listener, to kind of mull over. If our attention truly is our most valuable resource, what steps can you actually take, starting today maybe, to protect and cultivate it in your daily life? And maybe zooming out, what kind of world are we building together when we collectively let go of the reins on something so fundamental? Thank you so much for sharing these sources with us, and thank you for joining us on this deep dive.